So let's start standing. I know a lot of the yoga starts seated and laying, but in the traditional form, a lot of it starts on the feet as well, right? So traditional yoga would be to start grounding and centering. And it's important that we're able to ground and center on our feet as well. So if you're just joining, do a little bit slower class today, a little less big movements, a little bit more suggestions of personalizing postures, okay? So starting standing, grounding and centering, being still, a little bit more meditative. Close your eyes if you can. Start to feel the sensations of your body. Start to observe and notice the breath. So yoga starts with this meditative shift of awareness. And then usually it starts with setting an intention, a mantra, a prayer, something like an Om. If you would like to add that today. And from there, maybe some active breathing or pranayama. If there's a certain one you'd like to do, feel free. So now we keep this same meditative breath work, self-aware state. Add a little bit more challenge and distraction. Tree pose. Shift your weight to your right foot, left foot on the inner right shin. I'm keeping my eyes closed. Maybe reach your arms up for more active variation. As the yogis say, make this a meditation now. Work on focusing, keeping with your intention, keeping your breath work, your body awareness. So it's the same thing we did in this first form. We just add a little bit more distraction and chaos. So since we're moving less, maybe breathe more. Go slow. Tree pose, second side. If you need to shake it out in between, that's fine. A lot of traditional yoga, they'll say only necessary movements though, okay? So try to reduce any unnecessary movements. Okay, so tree pose, second side, please. A meditation, a practice of self-awareness on the subtle level, breath and energy work, staying calm. Close your eyes maybe for extra challenge. It's not easy to start in balance, right? It's kind of achy, not a lot of blood flow maybe yet for some of us, but it's doable. It's definitely maybe intermediate. Okay, now go slow. We'll meet back in Tadasana. Squeeze the butt for a moment, lift the chest, good posture. So Tadasana. And then chair pose. Arms reach forward and up, bend the knees. Couple breaths here. Now work on the subtle awareness of the body. Some people call it cues and alignment. Go slow, please. Stand up nice and tall. A little squeeze of the butt. Your right hand takes your left wrist. See if you can bring your feet together now. Reach up nice and tall, and it's a little side bend. So if you're just joining, we're doing a little bit slower of a class today. Just kind of holding postures, breathing. No rush here, guys. Back up to center, left hand, right wrist. Traction it, reach it up, and little side bend. Remember, guys, early in class in particular, be careful forcing range of motion and always going too deep. There's got to be days, even if you're flexible and good at yoga and practice, where you're really taking a softer approach. There might be days, there also might be weeks where you take a softer approach. There might be weeks where you take months where you take a softer approach, or even years, right? So always just kind of listening to your body and remembering to be kind. Okay, go slow, please. We'll come back to center, widen our feet, bring our hands on our hips, big inhale, lift the chest, bend the knees, and forward fold. Maybe reaching for the feet, blocks, pull in gently. I suggest bending the knees though, guys, okay? Go slow, bend knees, hands on hips, strong core, legs. Let's rise up. Another time through, little different. Shift your weight to your right foot, tree pose, arms wide this time. And I do want you to kind of exaggerate the pulling of the arms back. So you can see here's more of like just a neutral wide, but I pull my arms back more. Okay, so from the side, you can see it. My arms are really behind me, almost like a hyper, we call this in like fitness, like a back fly, where the arms are pulling back and you're really feeling your back activate. Tree pose with the branches now going wide. Breathe, focus, feel the body. Sorry guys, I'm experimenting with keeping my puppy and she's going crazy today. Second side, yogis. See if you can keep your arms wide. Just like we would in tree pose, keep our arms high. Keep your arms wide now. My palms are face forward. That's called a lateral rotation, horizontal abduction. Both of those are used in like postural corrections. This lateral rotation in the shoulder and this opening of the chest, the heart center, okay? A meditation, yogis. You should feel your back muscles starting to like hopefully fatigue and strain a little bit, all right? This extended position. So if we don't have weight for the arms, we just like hold them up more like endurance to really stimulate that muscle contraction. And this adds a subtle difference to the tree as well, right? The weight is on the sides. Makes it a little bit different. Okay? Now, I want you to take your time. We're going to meet in Tadasana. Don't forget to practice Tadasana, not just kind of make it in between mindless position. Chair pose, feet about hips width distance. Few breaths here now. You don't need your eyes in this pose, so try to close them. Work on your breath. Now, really feel your core. Are you arching your back a little too much? Pull your ribs in slightly. Can you lengthen through your side bodies, core a little bit more? Is there too much weight into the heels or the toes? Equal distribution of the weight. Are your knees buckling in and out? Bring in more of a neutral, kind of over the tops of the feet. Are your traps too tense? Try to relax there a little bit. Is your face tensing? Is your breath holding or erratic? Smooth it out, free it up. All the self-study, guys. Trying to study the self in the chaos of the chair posture. Go slow, stand up, squeeze your butt, lift your chest, arms up, step your feet together, right hand, left wrist. Notice my left palm faces the right. I reach up here, guys, and a little side bend. Remember, I'm trying to encourage length before depth. Wait into the heels. I do want to press like the inner, I do want to press like the big toe down. Same thing like a bridge, if we roll to the outer foot, we press the big toe down. If we roll to the outer hand and dog, we press the big, the index finger and the thumb down. Same thing, just done in the feet like we do it in the hands. Back up to center, left hand, right wrist. Go slow, back to center, feet wide. If you want a little bit bigger variation here, you could take your hands behind your back if you feel like you're ready for it. Roll the shoulders back, lift the chest, second forward bend here. Remember, it is suggested to bend the knees. You'll learn today in the lower back workshop about if your back hurts, you should never really, within weight and tension, round your back in a forward bend. That means child pose also, all right? So if you're unaware, today at 10:30 to 11, maybe a little bit longer today, 40 minutes, lower back kind of rehab and therapeutics. If you have pain, we'll cover some things that'll help reduce it and some things to avoid. And if you don't have back pain, we'll work on preventative care too. Really, it's kind of like the same thing though, right? One of the things I mentioned we'll cover is the rounding of the spine in hyperflexion kind of states. It's not good, right? Now go slow, bend knees, stand up, please. Left foot goes to the back of your mat. Lunge. Get a nice long lunge, bend your knees. I will add a little bit of eagle arms here to get the arms, shoulders opening more. So we had our arms here, right leg is forward. Right arm underneath. Intertwine your forearms, see if you can get your palms together. So it's a nice lunge, pressing through my palms, pulling apart my elbows. Now try to make it a meditation, so just less craziness, less cueing, less movements, more of the subtle practice today. If you want to make it more, no worries, just do it. It's all right. I want you to work the transitions in and out of the poses and between, just as much as you're working this pose. Nice and slow. You can inhale your arms up. Step forward, bring your arms down, finding our neutral Tadasana. Like if we were in on the floor, our neutralizers are dog, vinyasa, child pose, cat-cow. Standing here is a good neutralizer. Right foot goes back. Now some of us might just kind of stay here, right? Working on keeping that front knee over the front heel, squeezing those legs together. Others, arms up, wide. It's left arm under right, intertwining the forearms. So this is a nice active. We had our arms here, right? Straight and wide. Now they're crossing and spreading the back where it was tight before. So nice little opposition and counter for your arms. Now just study the body. How are those legs working? Squeeze the pelvic floor. How are the feet articulating against the floor? We don't want to build, dependence on the instructor to give the cues. I want you to develop the ability of feeling your way to a more efficient posture, using your intelligent, conscious mind to bring a little bit more intention into how you're using your body. Remember, guys, that all these cues you learn in yoga were created by somebody who wasn't told them. They were in the practice with enough focus, meditation, breath, repetition. They were able to uncover efficiencies and inefficiencies. You can do this too without being told. So today's the day we're kind of working on that process a little bit more. Now I want you to go slow. It's kind of, might not be long enough, right? So you hold longer if you need. Eventually inhale, arms high. You don't have to exit this way. It's just a nice kind of intentional way. Stand up at the top of your mat. Open your feet wide. Turn your right toes out. Turn your left toes to the right as well. Second lunge, good old warrior two. Squeeze your pelvic floor. Squeeze your legs together. Relax your shoulders, gaze to the right hand. So we're starting that neck rotational quality. You're going to see the postures are starting to get a little bit more isometrical, a little bit more complex. It's a good general rule of thumb, guys. Start in like simple exercises. Build complexity. So meditation in your warrior two. Remember that your left hip here does want to immediately rotate a little bit. Sometimes we work too much on abduction, lateral rotation in both thighs. You want to really turn your back hip in as much as you need to keep the front knee over the front heel. All right? Press the big toe down of both feet and the outer edge of both feet down. Last 2 to 3 breaths. Right? I can go a lot deeper here. I'm just not feeling it today. Now go slow. Switch sides. Maybe you can keep your arms here. So our arms aren't hyper back, right? They're in this T form. Left toes turn out, right toes also angle slightly forward. Working our warrior two. Take some time to find an efficient, intelligent position. And then as you get into it, more subtle adjustments. Don't forget that adjustments are not just like shifting the form, but also activating where you're not. So squeezing your legs together, pressing the feet down, I mentioned, kind of lengthening your side bodies. Here we rotate the shoulder laterally or externally. So if you want to try this quick, your palms would turn up. That's definitely lateral rotation. Now, what I want you to do is keep the elbow crease up, but turn your palm down. That's that pronation in lateral rotation. We're always working forward, down dog, up dog, plank, handstand. We're always working that lateral rotation from the humerus, shoulder joint, and pronation. It's like your rotation of your forearm. So it's this. We work this a lot, right? Now go slow, guys. Turn your toes in, neutralize, step forward, standing back bend, feet hips width distance. We only got a little bit more standing yoga to do here, yogis. So let's keep going. Fingers face up on the glutes. Now, in more challenging versions, your arms go up and you do Kali Mudra. So you intertwine all your fingers, palms together, you release your index. Palms stay together. If you want to do this, this is actually fine for beginners, right? Arms reach up, and I'm here, standing back bend. Okay? Not an easy posture. A little bit softer, support it. Fingers face up on the glutes, then camel. Do not let your lower back arch and your butt stick out. Traction your glutes down, push your hips forward and lift your chest. Standing back bend, please. Right, the goal is to get more length through our front body. We're in life, we're sitting a lot. That's all shortened here. The goal is to really lengthen our front body. Think of it like a cobra or a sphinx, but done in a standing form, okay? Come back to center, step your right foot back, or you open your feet. Straddle forward fold now. Feet parallel, hands on the hips, bend the knees, forward fold. Option to pull on your ankles, pull on the floor. If you have a big posture you want to go up into, don't be shy now. Really, the goal is inversion. Head below the heart. If you want to go up into headstand, you feel like you're ready, you're more than welcome to. We have a few more breaths. So yeah, I got 1 or 2 new people today to Sunday. This is not normal for Sunday. I usually get you moving a lot in the beginning, okay? And then we kind of work through more holding difficult postures and then into more stretch. Today is a little bit of a unique day in our approach. But that's important, guys. I want you to be on your toes. I want you to not be able to like expect what's coming, okay? Got to keep kind of breaking down the walls of our regular, all right? Come back up slowly, yogis. Okay, step to the front of your mat. Left foot goes back, lunge. Arms go up. Now, you got a couple options here. If twisting is tough for you, you can bring your hands in your heart center and just twist a little bit. So I twist my core to the right. If it's not a big deal, hands in prayer, widen your elbows. You bow, twist to the right. And don't rush into the pose here. You can notice how I'm like hovering and I'm twisting. And eventually that elbow might hook on the thigh. So our lunge twist, easier version here could be left hand on the block, right arm goes up. Easiest, maybe something like this bent over, okay? Or even like this, right? We do stuff like this too. Gentle yoga. See, if my right leg is forward, the general idea is to twist my core to the right. Just like you would lay on your back and twist your right knee across to the left. Just like you would sit and twist. You will also learn today in the lower back workshop about how the main 2 things to like avoid, obviously weight compression if your back hurts, but in yoga, rounded forward bending and like hyper twisting the lumbar, especially if the pain is coming from like lumbar discs. There's a lot of mixed ideas about if lumbar is really meant to rotate a lot. Some people say yes, of course. Some people say no, not really. Okay? Come back to center. Inhale, rise up. Step your feet forward. Squeeze your butt a little bit, guys. Right foot goes back. That squeezing of the butt is just like a symmetrical neutralizer, like a back bend, okay? Arms can go up. Some of us are staying a little upright and twisting. That would be like the therapeutic style. You're working on engaging your legs so they're stabilizing. You're gently twisting your core to the left and just holding. Some of us are starting to bow forward. Way more tension on lower back and core. Kind of pausing. Some of us are hooking. That's probably the full variation there. Some of us have hand on the block. Some of us have knee down and are more here. This is again in the therapeutics as well, but your legs don't have to stabilize nearly as much, like turn on. If your back hurts, we don't really think like stretching too much, some, but we want to strengthen the body. We need to be able to stabilize the lower back. See, I'm starting to go into some of our workshop stuff, but it's a good kind of, segue into it. Go slow, please. Rise up, high lunge, step forward, ta-da. Feet open wide. Last round of our lunges, okay? Right toes turn out, left toes turn to the right as well. Warrior two, we are going to do side angle. If you wanted to go to triangle, if you wanted to go to half moon instead, those are all on the table right now. Bend front knee, arms go wide. Notice I have my blocks in reach now, okay? Side angle position. From here, all I do is laterally move. Then I hinge, right forearm, right thigh, left arm to the sky. Top arm can reach forward. I want to engage my legs, press the big toe, outer edge of the feet down. Squeeze my legs together, squeeze my pelvic floor. Drive my right hip forward, beat my upper body back a little bit over the front leg. Top arm can go around the back, working the shoulder opener. Twist my chest to the sky. Some of us can go hand on the block. Outside is full version. Knee presses into arm, arm into knee. Some of us can go hand on the floor. There's also active versions. So here's where there's a lot more kind of creative and personalizing opportunity. Last 3 to 4 breaths here, guys. Anytime we're bent over, whether it's lateral, forward, back, it is way more core tension. Tension is described as strength as like you're pulling a muscle apart, let's say. Think of a rope, tension strength. How strong is it before you pull it apart and it snaps? That would be the measure of its tension strength, okay? Back to side angle, back to warrior two. Neutral side, think about like a wide-legged Tadasana. Left toes turn out, warrior two. You know me, yo, you gotta strengthen those legs, guys. All right, now listen, laterally move, laterally hinge, optional left elbow on left thigh, top arm to the sky, or even forward. Take your time. You know, my cues are not the deciding factor of when you move. Top arm can go around the back. It's kind of like a gentle shoulder opener, almost like a Gomukhasana bottom arm. Some of us are taking the hand on the block or the floor. If your hand goes lower than the knee, your arm pushes into your leg and your leg pushes into your arm. That's the active kind of battle. So if your arm is inside your knee, the knee pushes into, you know, it adducts into the arm. But if the arm is behind the knee, outside, it has to abduct. So it's actually very different. If you always do side angle with your hand on the block or on the floor inside, go outside behind, or vice versa. That's actually very different. And just as much as we're kind of strengthening, we're trying to stretch, or vice versa, right? Now go slow. You kind of at your own pace, okay? Right arm high, neutral. Step to the front of your mat. Take your time. Please don't move too fast because I am. Last standing postures. Warrior three. If you need blocks, put them in front of you. We will do 2 rounds. Second round, we'll have the option of like standing splits. Left foot hovers. Bend the right knee, start to hinge. First round, I want you to flex your left foot. Notice that dorsiflexion of my back foot. Look at my left hip, it wants to lift. Drop it down. Lift the hip. If you want more, reach your arms forward. If you want less, keep your hands on your hips, maybe down by your side or even in prayer. A few more breaths in this meditative form. There are creative variations and more challenging variations. There's movements, bending standing knee, lifting standing heel, pulsing top leg. Just a suggestion if anything's calling to you. How slow can you go? Bend standing knee, stand up, maybe a little standing back bend. Second side, right foot hovers. Left knee bends. Hinge. Still take your time getting into the pose. It's a big thing in yoga, this idea of learning the poses, right? That's really beginner, getting familiar with a lot of these. And then it's kind of like, okay, I know the poses, but now I have to really discipline my ability to like focus and feel, slow down in between. Vinyasa is that practice. It's the practice of stringing them together, so making them more challenging in sequence, but also the practice of the movement of the space between. True vinyasa is not really the practice of poses as much as it is the movements in between. So if you go into a vinyasa yoga and you're holding postures, it's not really vinyasa that much. By definition of the original stories about how vinyasa was created, it literally was called the dance. The great Hatha yogis went before the emperors of India, who were considered almost deities, and they would put all these yoga postures together in the most graceful, beautiful movements. And thus the vinyasa was described. So to come back, this movement in between, okay? Let's stand up, please. I'm not gonna do lateral. We did that multiple times. I'm gonna go straight down the middle in the sagittal plane. If you wanna go further, it's standing split. If you wanna go easier, it's something like pyramid, okay? All the same plane, left foot hovers, no rush, hinge. If you wanna go further, hands come toward the floor, left leg goes higher. We haven't bared weight on the arms, that's coming next. So how this practice goes now is it's easy to do a lot of postures in a row. Well, relatively easy compared to arm endurance. We've done over a half an hour of leg weight-bearing exercise. Now we're gonna go arm, and most of us are gonna have a lot more struggle being in endurance forms of the arms. It's core, it's legs too, but arms are gonna fatigue first because now we go closed chain on the arms. We've been open chain on the arms. The arms haven't had weight, they've been working more hyper ranges, endurance holds. Some of these are trying handstand hops. That's always interesting to try before doing any push-ups, before doing any down dog or chaturangas to warm up the weight-bearing arms. Go slow. Tadasana neutralize. Maybe a little standing back bend. Last standing posture. Right foot hovers, hinge, warrior three. I forgot to say it, but I want you to point the toe. If you always flex the foot, time to start pointing your toe. If you're always doing pointing the toe, flex the foot, right? In the ankle rehab, well, we did foot and ankle. There's a lot of things I left out. I want to do a part 2 with the deep compression of the ankles. And I also left out this idea of doing like hundreds of non-weight bearing like ankle rolls. Like literally you roll your ankle like 100 times one direction, and then you roll your ankle the opposite direction 100 times. We got to remember, guys, that there's certain body parts that are bearing weight all day, particularly the legs, right? Feet, ankles, knees, hips. And those are the body parts where I tend to try to suggest to take weight off and like loosen up, especially in restorative classes. This is a strength building class. So if you're in gentle yoga, flexibility class, if we're trying to release tension, take weight off and move weight-bearing body parts a lot, okay? But this is more of a strength building focus right now. All right, guys, so I want you to finish up your final standing posture. We make our way down through yogi squat. Meeting and standing. Remembering your intention, your mantra, your prayer. Getting low all the way down now. And you're gonna see that this is a forward bending rounded spine. It's just like child pose, or in a sense touching your toes. When back hurts, not the best option probably, okay? So now we go right into weight bearing arms, and it's not going to be easy. We're going to go strong for another about 10 to 15 minutes. You're going to need a lot of breaks on your own, all right? High plank position, hands plant, walk feet back. Now grip your hands. If your wrists are the limiting factor, forearms. But remember, guys, that we want to grip our hands. It's another thing I didn't cover this in the wrist rehab. I chose a few certain things. Learning to, I call it hand intelligence, right? Where you're gripping the hands. Spreading the back, squeezing the butt. If you feel good, you hover your right foot here. So that makes it a little bit more unstable, more core, more asymmetrical. Much more challenging to hover a foot here. Don't let your back arch. This is something we're going to talk a lot about in the back therapy class. Not noticing when we arch the back and anterior tilt, dumping weight to lower back, whether it's via tension or just lack of body awareness. Okay, right foot goes down, left foot hovers. So the goal is to stay on your arms until you fail. If you take a break, just come back and join us. Okay, we're in like the peak of class. We're using this stuff today as the peak. Some days we start here, okay? Our next position should be okay. It's down dog. It is a different form, different weight shift. Notice I'm shaking my wrist out a little bit. And I'm pedaling my feet out here if I feel like I need it. But I'm trying to get my head low, my heels more toward the floor, and deepen my breath in and out my nose. If you need a rest, no worries. We're going to keep going now. We'll shift forward back to plank. If you need to come down to your forearms, good idea. Heels to the left, side plank. So you can see it's all traditional postures. When you look at the modern exercise science, the kinesiology, the myology, biomechanics, all those sciences of the kind of physical musculoskeletal body, you realize the yogis, man, they were scientists and really knew the body well. Yoga is an ancient practice created by meditating people who were really doing what they could to optimize the energy and the youth of the body. And you realize that the yogis are scientists, and there's so much kind of purpose behind each posture relating to the modern science. Okay, side plank, second side, please. Yeah, some of you are taking rest. I didn't mention it, but you could drop down to the knee, you could drop down to the shin for a half side plank variation. Our goal is now extended, chaotic weight bearing on the arms. What's that? No, she's fine. Here's where you get a subtle break, guys. Down to the knees. Back through plank, down to the knees. Swing your legs around. So we had our arms, if you watch me just for one moment, you had your arms here and wait. You had your arms here and wait. You had your arms here and wait. Now we're going to go here and here. So it's just looking at how your arms work. Let's strengthen all of it equally, right? Hands behind you. We're going to do the reverse table. If you're feeling good, it's full reverse plank. But if you're a little bit new to this,
It's the reverse table. Reverse table is considered a beginner posture, but it's a tough beginner posture. Notice how my fingers are face forward behind me. The goal is now to have my arms behind me and weight. Fingers forward, roll the shoulders back and down, lift that heart, press through your feet. My feet are pretty wide, a little bit wider than hips. And then here we go, I'm gonna lift those hips. You're gonna learn that hip thrust is one of the best lower back, healers and preventative care exercises. I press my big toe down. I do not let my knees buckle out. I make it a meditation. I hold. Some of us can even, let the head fall back. You open your jaw, release, the mouth open, and the head can fall back. Now here, you got to watch for the anterior tilt. I mentioned the overarching of the back is a good recipe for back pain that won't go away, unnecessary back pain. We'll talk about that in a lot of ways. So we don't want cow spine, we want the cat spine. So this kind of hollow into the chest, not the back. Drop down your butt, please. Take a little breather here. Shake it out. Now, I did mention in the beginning before we started, hopefully you have the blocks. This is a tough exercise, but yogis, we have to find ways to work what's called active depression of the scapula. Basically, we always say in yoga, push your shoulders back and down, right? We actually are going to literally push down. So we have to find a way to do that in yoga. And it's not the easiest thing to do to use weight to push straight down. And it's not really arms, it's scapula. Scapula are these kind of triangle shaped bones right here on your back that move like this. So it's not a shoulder movement. You see all this movement I'm getting? That's not shoulder, it's scapula. And a lot of us have tension here in these traps over hyper elevation. The shoulders are lifting in space. So this is a reciprocal inhibition, a correction for that imbalance. Here's where I take my two blocks, they're right outside my hips. My legs are crossed to make it a little easier. I lift my chest, same thing with the one here behind us. If it's easy, your legs would go straight forward, just like reverse plank. I put my hands right on top of my blocks. I press straight down. I lift my butt straight up. I try to lift my chest. My shoulders are a little bit more back and down. And I'm going to hold here and breathe. Now, with your legs down, it's a lot easier. You can probably hold. You do need to grip your fingers, guys, or weight bearing on those hands. If it's easy, you hover one and then maybe both. That's going to be a lot more strenuous. And you're also going to learn, we'll see how much time we have. Lower back pain could be like, a weekend of workshops. But I'm going to do like a condensed variation. You're going to learn that hyperflexion, that hip flexors lever is not really recommended when you have back pain, okay? Take a little breather, shake it out. So I want to do it again. We went from plank to dog. We were in this space, and then we went here. Now we're in this space. See this? So we want to do another round of our up table. Just to be clear, this is like replacing bridge and wheel today. And I know, weird, right? No cobra, no up dogs today, okay? So my first, there's a lot of styles of yoga who they don't do that down dog that much, and or cobras or up dogs, right? Pigeons. Fingers forward, hips lift. And I want you to hold, yogis, all right? I know it's not easy. Some of us can drop the head back, pubic bone forward and up. Side body's core lengthen. Press the feet down equally, relax the feet a little bit. A lot of times we can have difficulty here because of what's called muscular resistance. Your front shoulder and front chest too tight. You restrict your ability to move the arm back in space. Muscle resistance is a huge problem in yoga often in many ways, okay? So it's all right, just keep working. Take it down to the buttocks, please. So reverse plank is the full version. And I mentioned here that this starts here, nice side view. Okay, little side view, that's it right there. Now, the first one I want to do is like lift the chest. We were kind of doing that. Eventually, we're trying to reduce the lifting of the chest. Now, this first starts by rounding. It's kind of like cat, right? Where I see how my spine rounds, but eventually I do want to come up and forward more. So it starts like this. You notice my arms come in front of me because the weight is in front of me, right? So my arms have to shift to counterbalance. But eventually, what I'm working on here, guys, is here. I go here first, but then it's more like lift the chest through and up. So it's still that same idea of push straight down, not in front of you. Just to notice that, not easy. As you start to lift your feet more, arms come in front of you, spine rounds. What you're working on is taking your rounding out of your spine, lifting your chest, bringing your hips a little bit more forward in space. All right, guys, that concludes our strength posture practice. We want to bridge the gap into meditation. Stretches. Take a seat if you need for a moment. First stretch I'm going to do, front body stretch, okay? We already did straddles and hamstrings, so this is a really important one here, guys. Let's try not to avoid it. Big toes touch. Sit on heels. Stretch your ankles now. My knees are a little bit wide. So in child pose, we go forward here. A lot of people call this reclining or reverse child pose. Some people call it the saddle. I'm sitting on my heels. My big toes are touching. They're not cramping. They're just barely touching. My knees are about hips width distance, maybe slightly wider. And then for this one, I'm trying to go backwards here. Notice I'm using my forearms. If you had like 3 bolsters, you could lay back. We didn't do cobras. We didn't do any like big, our biggest front body stretches were like lunge, standing back bend. So it's good to get a real big knee bend. That's front body stretch. Lean back. Close your eyes. Make it a meditation, please. Go slow. Come back up. These two are working together. You might want to do a little cat-cow and release after that. Next is pigeon stretch. Right shin forward. If you want to do figure 4, that's fine. You often get the question as a yoga instructor, my shin won't go parallel to the front edge of my mat. Do you see how my knee joint's closed? That's totally fine, guys. Figure 4 covers the parallel leg. Okay, so does double pigeon and Sukhasana. It's really good to take the stretch on this angle, even if you can't do it parallel. Walk that left foot back. Now, just to be clear, you can do a little hip flexor stretch here. Lift the chest, okay? Left heel goes back. It's good to take a few breaths here. Upright, pressing the feet down a little bit. Eventually, you come forward. Coming into more of our forward bent variation. Breathe. Go slow. Come up, switch sides. If you wanted a vinyasa or something, you know, here in the end of practice, taking the soft one, totally good. Left side. So I'm choosing these two stretches right now, guys, because all that standing work, you know, what's the main, like, obviously everything is stabilizing, but that IT band is really stabilizing, really contracting. And two of the main muscles stabilizing are that vastus lateralis and the semitendinosus. And we're hitting those two in these last two stretches, okay? Maybe sitting upright, a little bit more of like a stretch back bend, hip flexor. Virasana, saddle, reverse child, not that much hip flexor. So here, I can get a back bend front body stretch that I didn't really get in the first pose. Similar to like a restorative bridge or an Anjaneyasana. Eventually, you might want to take it down. A few extra breaths here, yogis. Now I want you to take your time. You're going to finish up that side. Shake out your leg, cat-cow it. And what we're going to do is meet laying on the back slowly. Now listen, if there's another hip stretch you want to do, I'm going to do the hamstring into the twist. If there's another one you want to do it now, okay? Let's start on our back by bringing our knees into our chest for a moment. So if you want to do a forward bend when your back hurts, this is what's recommended more as opposed to like yogi squat or child pose. Just because look at my spine doesn't round, okay? Now to go into your next stretch here, left leg will release. Hands are going to intertwine behind that hamstring. If you're really good at this, you could go up higher, but try to keep, you know, your head and shoulders on the floor. Try to straighten your right leg a little bit more, flex your right foot, and pull gently and breathe. This is a classic Hatha Yoga version. They didn't use straps. If you want to take your right leg open a little bit, release your left hand. The right leg kind of opens to the right. Leg up to center, maybe bend it, take it over to the left for our deepest twist of class. So please take your time. So in essence, what we're doing, yogis, it's kind of like you would do in standing yoga or in lunging even, right? So we started with you here on your back. Then we bring you here. Then we open it up, legs are straight, and then we cross it. We do it standing, we do it lunging, we do it in this type of form. So now, switching legs, this is our final stretch in the class. I'll give you a minute in the end before meditation starts. So right leg is going to release. Left knee comes into chest. Some of you are kind of on your own, so do your thing. Hands intertwine around your left hamstring. And you just meditate. You don't work on like maybe, a softer variation, so you don't have to overstretch here. You just meditate in it with your leg in a little bit of a hyper range. You relax where you're too tense, maybe activate a little bit where you're maybe a little too lazy, and you breathe. You lengthen your side bodies. If you want to open that leg a little bit, so left leg kind of you might have to back out of the flexibility a little bit, and you open to the left. It's kind of like a half moon. Now, as you open to the left, it's going to want to take that wherever the leg extends, whether it's like warrior 3 or, if we're in pyramid, the front leg goes forward. It takes the hip and space with it. It's a general kind of rule. And it's also in a general activation cue to, work your hip against it. So if my left leg is going left, it wants to lift my right hip up in space to the left. So you want to roll your right hip and ribs down a little bit. So that's a good kind of just fundamental thing to notice how that happens in all forms in the practice. Come back to center and take it across. You might want to scoot your hips a little left, bend the knee, maybe. Some of you are doing it with straps too. That's cool. That's a little bit more like the modern version. The left knee across to the right. Close your eyes. Breathe. Maybe look to the left. So here is those half moon and revolve moon. Same poses. We didn't do them standing today, so we did them in flex version. So we do those same body forms all across yoga. So listen, guys, I want you to finish up that last pose. I want you to take 1 minute of anything that feels good. If you want to do a little happy baby or plow, if you want to throw a block under your butt. And what we're in a sense doing is a last movement, a last stretch, anything that you need to prepare for meditation class. All right. And while you're doing your last stretch, I'm going to describe what we're doing today. So guys, it's been about 20, I think today is week 22 of the meditation class that started last week of September. So every Sunday we've been doing a lot of different meditative techniques, inner work, self work, right? And now today is kind of bringing all the weeks together and now allowing you to recognize what type of meditative, mental, emotional work you need to do. So I'm going to quickly run through all the styles we've done so far and whatever one resonates with you, right? So what does that mean? When I, go through this list here, which is the one that sticks out to you mentally? That is what, if you can remember the style, I want you to work on it. So what I'm going to ask you to do, guys, is now for our first time, practice meditating on your own. Again, this idea of kind of becoming dependent on an instructor, or now it's time to kind of like walk the journey ourselves. So let's start here. The first week we did Kriya breathing. That is simple 4-part breathing, slow, maybe 6-count inhale, 4-count breath hold, 4-count exhale, 3-count breath hold at the bottom. So box breathing, 4 parts. That's Kriya breath. Maybe you want to work that. We did alternate nostril breathing. First 2 weeks we did
pranayama, where you're inhaling in your left, plugging, exhaling out your right, inhaling back in your right, plugging, exhaling out the left, inhaling in the left. The Nadi Shodhana, it's the balancer of the energies of the body. Then we did our first week of hum, our first mantra. That was the hum, week 3. Week 4, we did the 4-step meditation process where I introduced gratitude meditation, where I ground and center. I shift my chemical thought body, emotional body with stepping into gratitude. I think of what I'm grateful for. I have a subjective experience. I go to objective, and then I maybe do passive meditation or intention setting. So I work that process of creating meditation state. Next week was a focus on the subjective versus the objective meditation. Okay. Maybe you want to work on that. Maybe you're too subjective, too much in your own kind of feelings and emotions about everything. Default brain versus presence brain was next. We recognized our default brain going into the overthinking, coming back into the present moment. I mentioned you can use mantra, you can use breath. It's a great way to become very present. Shift to alpha brain. Then we did gratitude meditation. The whole thing was like potent about how grateful you be. One of my all-time favorites, included in my 4 to 5 step process. Then we did chakra blockage meditation, where we looked at your energy centers, what they're all about, what blocks them from that energy flowing. Maybe you want to go over that. Then we did simple visualizing. We closed our eyes, brought our awareness to our third eye internal space where we see our thoughts. And I led you through visualizing. I have nature written down. So it might have been the one with like a fruit tree and then maybe some bugs or the sky, plants. I like to do in animals. Then we did emotional meditation, where I said things like anger, fear, where I brought a lot of emotions in, very subjective again. Work on feeling, connecting to that body. Then we did diaphragm directional breathing, where we breathe into certain spaces into our body. Next week, again, was this another breathing, 3-part breath, where you're really focusing on your abdomen, belly breath, rib breathing, side bodies, and your back breathing and your upper chest. We did Om. Then we did Trakat, staring at the candle flame, the Drishti and the Agni. Then we did Gong, sound bath. You can put on some soft music. But then we did nothingness, so complete passive. We did the count in your head. How high can I count in my head? Visualizing it, saying it in my head until I get distracted. Then I start over. Classic. Then we did 5-step process again. We did the collective consciousness meditation. We did asking questions. Remember, we did the collective, working on visualizing, connecting. And then you can see a lot of these things are kind of together. So now, yogis, what I'm going to ask you to do, we haven't done like positive affirmations. Those are really powerful, really good to do. I am happy. I am happy. Feel the energy of happiness. We're going to do that one week. We didn't do that yet, but that's another option. So there's a few more, but we're going to keep it there because I don't want to waste too much time. So yogis, I want you to now, which one kind of is sitting with you? Which one do you know you need to work on, or which one do you want to work on? Doesn't matter. I want you to practice some type of inner work that you decide, not me anymore. All right. This is key to give you a lot of guidance, but then set you free. Get out of your way for me. Okay. So we're going to do this week, and then we're going to come back to the group next week. So now we have about 10 minutes, and that's a good start. Which one is calling to you? Maybe it's just Shavasana, that's fine. We haven't done a true Yoga Nidra in here either. That's on my list eventually to do. So if you know those, you can do those. Maybe pick one that you don't do as much of though. So start to settle in, to get comfortable. Remember, Shavasana is passive, nothingness, resting mind, body, breath, trance. And just close your eyes. There's no deep breathing unless that's your meditation with intention. And I want you to have an internal experience, do inner work on yourself. But no like big physical stuff. Go deeper. I'm going to give you about 10 minutes. I turn off my screen and my mic. No distractions from me. No visual, no auditory. Go deep, yogis. The opportunity is right in front of you.